Order of Light presents a new era of contact, UFO sightings and strange anomalies, secret space programs and off-world adventures, advanced technologies and new discoveries, extraterrestrial abductions and contactees. Now is the time to speak. As we explore the unknown, the uncertain, and unseen, we are the disclosure, and these are those stories.
Hello, welcome back to the channel, all of you wonderful beings of light. So happy that all of you are here today. Tonight we have an amazing guest, Sherri Divband, part of the Aramis Creative Learning Center that she founded, along with tons of amazing staff, and she is someone that is really helping our future, our children, young adults, and adults as well. I saw that she had a couple of courses for adults, so she is really putting in the work. That old saying, faith without works is dead. She's someone that is putting in the work, and it is showing, and she is helping so many people all around the world help their young ones, their children, their grandchildren, their nieces, their nephews. And for all of you that are watching this channel and you love learning these things, but you have a relative or a child and you wish there was a way you could teach the things we talk about, but in a way that's appropriate for children, Sherri is the woman to do that. And what she's doing with the Aramis Creative Learning Center is exactly that. It's online courses, so no matter where you are in the world, you can have your children attend these courses, and we're going to be talking about that. But before we do so, I just want everyone to know my next few episodes of A New Era of Contact will be mostly based around creative learning and children. And this is because a few weeks ago, I had my good friend, Dr. Dan Seda, and his second book of The Chronicle of a Nocturian Envoy is all about the children, as you see on the cover. And all of you know that I'm a character in that book, and I don't know if that played a role in it, but this book absolutely inspired me and brought something alive in me that has been dormant for a very long time. I was a youth pastor. I worked with kids for many of years. I've done summer camp programs. I was an English teacher teaching children, high school kids in the Middle East. I've always worked with kids of this nature, but that book really, really inspired me. So thankfully, we finally got in contact. I reached out to Sherri. She reached out to me, and now we're here. And it's an honor to have you here. And before we get started, everyone, please hit that little thumbs up button, give the page a big old subscribe, and make sure you share this to anyone that you know that has children, grandchildren, nieces, and nephews, or any adult that would actually like to learn something. So, Sherri, welcome to the show. So happy to have you here. Before we get started in the Aramis program you got going on there, that amazing school and learning center, could you tell us all a little bit about yourself? Because how does someone get into all of this? And I know you have to have a story. So if you could, just give us a little backstory, who you are, and, what got you into all of this.
Wow. Well, thank you, Robert, for this really warm welcome, and I'm honored to be a part of your show and to speak with your audience tonight. And I'd love to share a little bit more about myself. I feel like I say this story a lot, so I'm worry some people get bored with hearing it, but hopefully there's a lot of people on your channel that haven't heard it yet. But I'm just a normal person, nothing really truly unique about me other than I kind of fall into the category of only child. I had a teen mom, and so my early upbringing was quite interesting.
Me too.
I grew up in Los Angeles, California, for a while, and again, I had a teen mom, teen dad as well. They didn't stay together, and so it was an interesting upbringing of my mom truly having to grow up at such a young age and navigate through that period of trying to be an adult, a parent, and a teenager herself, and, you know, all of these things. And so it was interesting. And, you know, some of my early memories were so beautiful with her. She was a wonderful, wonderful human being, and my dad, and I had a lot of love around me. But around 3 years old, I think, was the first trauma that I experienced, because I was actually kidnapped by my babysitter, who was at that time actually legally mentally retarded. Now, she was functioning, and we knew that. But I think she mistook me, or we don't know exactly what happened, but she thought I was hers, and took me to dinner and never brought me back. And I was gone for a while. I mean, you can look it up in the Los Angeles Times. It was in the newspaper, and I was with her, this woman, in her boyfriend's apartment for, I don't really know, I think it was 4 or 5 days. But I was on the news. It was everywhere, and it was quite traumatic, because the woman didn't really feed me. I didn't get any attention. I don't even know why I was there. I remember praying at night, you know, what did I do wrong? You know, why can't I go back with my mom? I'll do better next time. You know, I'll be good. You know, thinking all of these, where are my angels? Like, what's happening to me? Like, just all of these thoughts. And I ended up getting sick. So that's how I was found, because we were at a grocery store, and something came over me, because I was also a very shy kid, just really introverted, quiet, always. So I didn't really speak up for myself. And something came, well, I know what came over me. It was my higher spirit, you know, to get me out of a situation. And a woman in the cash register was saying, "Are you okay?" to me, because I looked probably really sickly.
Malnourished.
Yeah. Low energy, probably really dull. And something came over me, and I said, "This isn't my mom. I want to go home." And I started screaming, completely out of character for me. And I just remember chaos after that. A bunch of adults running around. Somebody put me behind the counter, and next thing you know, I was in a sheriff's car, in the back of the car with the police, you know, the lap belts in the middle. And remember feeling so scared, but so happy at the same time, because I think I was going to see my mom. I didn't know. And then it was a very public, whatever you call it, coming together, or whatever the word is I'm trying to think of, because there were news people there, and we were being recorded on the news. And so there was a lot of people around. And I feel like I never got answers, probably because I was so old, as to what happened to me. You know, I didn't really, I think it was a trauma that is in, you know, that's lumped into that inner child work that needs to be addressed at some point, which I am now addressing that. But I think that was the first true trauma that I endured. And then it seemed to be a bunch of things that happened back to back after that. We moved around a lot, because my mother ended up marrying my stepfather, who was an engineer. And he built flight simulators for the Air Force. So we moved around a lot, sometimes in the same city, sometimes different homes. I look back now and I wonder why we moved so much. I don't quite know the full story of it. But nevertheless, I was a target. Everywhere I went, I was bullied by everybody. The girls were always really mean to me. Teachers were mean. I wasn't very good at school. I didn't want to be in school. So I was kind of that problem child that I was always being called out for talking too much. Sherri talks too much. Listen, I wasn't really I didn't feel very smart. You know, I was never book smart. I wasn't very intelligent compared to what you would expect, right? I was like, I wanted to do arts and creative stuff. I'm very right-brained. And so left brain activities were really challenging for me, the math and things like that. And so I struggled. I was really unhappy as a young person. And as a result of that, I kind of turned my back on the world. And I disassociated to some degree, but I also built these thick walls up around myself, and I didn't trust anybody, because everybody I knew seemingly was mean to me, hurt me, abused me in some way. There was also sexual abuse. So there was a lot of things in my past. And so really what saved my life and the catalyst for everything, I believe, are animals, because I always that was the one constant, were animals. And I really became best friends with my childhood dog, which is a German Shepherd named Chelsea. And I learned animal communication. I learned compassion and empathy, and I felt safe with the animals. And that's how I learned to communicate with the animal kingdom. And that was really all I had. And I really went through my entire young adulthood not trusting anybody, not having a lot of friends. Girls were still mean to me up until I was big enough to stand up for myself. So I always hung out with the boys, but it was always animals. And so as a result of that, I wanted to dedicate my life to working with animals. And so I did. I went into the veterinary field, and starting from the age of like 17, I worked at a vet hospital, and I have a strong work ethic. I always have. And I work my butt off, and I take it serious. So I worked my way up from like a kennel tech to a technician, because I was like, that's what I want to do. I want to be an animal nurse. And I worked my butt off. I went in on my days off. I watched and volunteered for surgeries and anything I could do. I was just immersed because I wanted to be with animals, and that's what I wanted. And I was also very fascinated by medicine since I was a young girl as well. And so that was kind of my escape. So I was really neglecting that inner child in me that was needed to be dealt with, though. Like, I needed to heal that version of myself that hated people and didn't trust people, and especially women. I felt very threatened, around them, because for whatever reason, they never liked me. In hindsight, I look back and I don't know why. I was the nicest person, but they brought the darkness out of me. I feel like at that point, the shadow side of me took over, and I became very grumpy, very aggressive, very mean person. I was already ready to fight anybody, not physically. I mean, I'm not that big, but you know what I mean? Like, I had that attitude. And I really wasn't the best version of myself. And the best version of myself truly was when I was working with the animals. And so I did that. I mean, went to college, but when I was working with animals, that's where I felt the most calm and at peace. So I did that for a while. I mean, I worked as a registered veterinary technician for 20 years. I mean, I dedicated a good portion of my life to working with animals. I worked at the zoo for 10 years. I did intensive care and ICU for a long time. Critical care and ICU, I mean. And so I saw animals at their worst. And if I rewind, while doing all of that, I met my husband walked into my life probably when I was the most bitter. And I think I know our contract together was for him to be like, hey, calm down. What's your problem? Like, he brought me out. He helped crack open the barriers that I had placed myself within. And he saved me from myself, truly. And he made me realize that you can trust people. Let me help you. And he changed everything for me as far as an adult relationship. And it was the first person I truly trusted for probably one of the few in my entire life up until this day. And I think I needed that. I needed my heart to be cracked open just enough, because what was going to happen next, I did not expect. And what that was I got pregnant at 23. And I had my first son, who's now about to be 18. Wasn't prepared for it. It wasn't planned. We had only been dating for a few years with my husband now. And we had no idea what we were doing. I just graduated college. I'm working at a vet hospital as a technician, working towards management, training, that sort of thing, but not really making that much money, and certainly not ready to be a mom. And what happened was I agreed to bring in a starseed, a crystal child, which, if you know anything about crystal children, their whole entire purpose is to bring in love to this planet. They are a large group of starseeds that come in and just vibrate at the frequency of love. And they are the most kind, compassionate people that open your heart and make you see things a little bit differently. They don't like conflict. They're just beautiful human beings, just easygoing. They're just even keeled. They don't have high emotions one way or the other. And they're very pleasant to be around. And he came in and opened my heart, cracked it open like I didn't even know was a possibility, and changed me for the better, and changed me forever. Because what happened was I started to look at the people around me, strangers in the grocery store. It doesn't matter. Anybody that previously I had a chip on my shoulder and I was ready to fight you because I'm not going to let you hurt me, I'll hurt you first type of mentality. I started to think to myself, wow, now I have this little boy that I need to care for. I would love to assist in some way to bring him up in an environment that's different, So I started to look at people in such a different way, where instead of judging them off the bat, I thought to myself, what's their story? Maybe they're mean, something happened to them. Maybe they had similar experiences to me. Everybody has something that's happened to them that we don't know. And so instead of judging people off the bat and expecting the worst in people, I started to change and have compassion, and I started connecting to people. And it just changed everything. I mean, everything about me. I thought differently. I acted differently. I started to attract better people into my life, and I had more friends, more love, more support. And it was beautiful and harmonic. So when I had Jordan and all of this was happening, we did move from coast to coast. We went to California from Maryland, and we moved back, and it was a beautiful experience. But when we moved back to Maryland, I wanted to start working in the zoo, but I also wanted to get into zoo medicine, but I also wanted to learn healing, holistic healing. And it wasn't for people, and it wasn't for me. It was for animals, because I had just come out of an intensive experience working in critical care in Los Angeles, California, seeing the animals in the most unbelievable, dire situations you can ever imagine. And I was very good at my job, and somehow I was able to disconnect and just do what I needed to do to help them without. Sorry, my computer is acting up a little bit.
Oh, you're good.
Sorry about that. It's like something just took over my mouse and it was going nuts. And I thought there has to be a better way. Like, this is all great. It's the top of the line treatment that we're giving them. It was a state-of-the-art facility. Honestly, it was cleaner and nicer than any hospital I've ever been to myself. That's what I was working in. So we had everything we needed, but I felt like these animals could have more. And I started to look into more holistic medicine and Reiki. So I went and I really started to learn Reiki, and I learned it for the animals. I started an animal communication business while I was in Maryland, and I did Reiki. Reiki and animal communication was my side gig, So I would go to people's houses, I would do Reiki on their animals, and I would do readings for them. And I got burnt out really fast. And the reason for that is because what I didn't expect, because I was young, I didn't know that much at the time, was that a lot of the ailments that these animals had were a result of mirroring of their owners. And so the animal did need acute healing, yeah, but long-term treatment was really, hey, maybe you could benefit from some Reiki to the owner, and we need to work through some of your traumas and so it was actually training for me. In hindsight, I realize now it wasn't a waste of my time. It was training me for what I was going to transition into next, which was I'll work with people, because truly they need it more than the animals do, because the animals really work off of our energy, and they are complete in service to others, us, and they are unconditional. They come from unconditional love, and they want to take our pain from us, but they take too much. And so their issues that they have are our issues. And so I said, well, I guess I should work with animals. And I'm sorry, with people. And so I slowly transitioned working with people, which I didn't want to do at first, because, people were scary. They're unpredictable. I thought, they're not going to listen to me. They're not going to appreciate my time like animals do, because animals truly appreciate everything we do. So there's so many things that brought me. So I want to, give you the full picture. Around that time, I also had my second son, Skylar, who is a star child, a star seed, but he's a star child, completely different than Jordan. Threw me off my game a little bit, because I didn't quite expect it, because Jordan was so easy. The easiest kid to this day. He's been in trouble like once his whole life, like that kind of kid, that kind of easy. And Skylar came in, and he was much more stubborn, much more strong-willed, very passionate, just really different. And I didn't know how to parent him. And it was really challenging. So I had to navigate through that as well. And I had another spiritual awakening as a result of him. And it really expanded my awareness. I started connecting more to guides and angels, and my psychic gifts started to really flood in when he came, because I think I was at a point when I was ready for it. And so that translated in my work. And so I started working with people. When I was doing Reiki with people, I started getting visions of their past lives, of their traumas, things that they didn't tell me, and nor did they ask for. So then I was in this position of, okay, do I tell these people this? Like, why are you showing me this, universe? am I supposed to tell them, like, this isn't why they came to me? This might be a little woo woo. They're going to think I'm crazy. And I actually hid it from the first probably half a dozen people because out of fear, I was afraid. And then finally one day I said, I'm just going to tell this young woman what I get, what I see, and we'll just see what happens. And she was very receptive, and it changed everything, because it was that one woman that changed everything for me, because she wanted to know more and more and more, and more things started coming through. And I realized I had this gift to be able to do that, and not only help people heal through energy, but also through intuitive guidance, and helping them through their traumas from past lives, and recognizing the connection between that life and why you're having these problems in this life, and the triggers. I learned so much. And then I was all in. I was all in, Robert. I was like, I want to work with people. I love this. The universe was bringing me the right people that were open, and that was my intention that I put out. And bring me the nice people that are going to help me ease into this, instead of the challenging ones that don't appreciate it. So there are many more things that happened. I had my daughter, Aramis is my third. And a couple of years before I got pregnant with her, I always knew I wanted a third, but it was the timing I wasn't sure of. And I was knee deep in work, and I was really busy. So it wasn't like at the top of my mind. And at the time I had a spirit circle with my mom, who's very close with. We did all the spiritual stuff together, took classes together, had a spiritual circle with a couple other people. And we would meet, and we would channel and do tarot cards, all the fun stuff, innocent stuff. And she came to me and one of those, and she said, she introduced who she is, and she's going to come in and she's my daughter, and we have a big journey together, and she's asking me for my help. And she said, don't let me forget what I am here to do. And I said, okay, why do you keep saying, don't let me forget? It's such an odd request. So I started channeling her all the time, and I kept notebooks, and I would write down every week, at least, of pages worth of information. And next thing I knew, I said, wow, I've learned so much from you. There's no book or class or person that has ever taught me that much collectively in my entire life than you have taught me in these months. And then I got pregnant. And then I channeled her continually throughout my pregnancy. She never told me exactly what we would do together. It was just that she had a big life mission, and she taught me about the star children, the rainbow children, the crystal children. She taught me most of what I know. And that's where I got the information from my book. Now, I'm not saying she's the only one that has ever said star children, rainbow children, but that's how I learned my perception of that, let's say, of what they are and what they're here to do. So she taught me so much. So she entered my life in a very unique way. And I knew that our connection was very special, and we had a big job to do together in this universe. And so that's kind of where the Aramis Creative Learning Center started, as because of her. And I can get into the story, but I want to make sure you don't have any questions, because I've just said quite a lot, and there's so much more I can share. But that's pretty much catches you up until we got Aramis here.
That's perfect. And I mean, the fact that you could communicate with her before the physical existence, and during her being in the womb, and now everything she's doing and what you're doing, the school's named after her, that's absolutely incredible. And I just want to go back to your upbringing, because I know a lot of people watching this, they've had the same situation, but there was a lot of similarities between my life and some of the things you described. My mother got pregnant when she was 17. She was an 18-year-old single mom, no dad around, etc. When I was younger, someone tried to kidnap me. Anytime I bring it up to my family, I've heard them bring it up a few times. Oh, that one time you were kidnapped in the park, and then I go to press them for more information. I never get anything out of them. And I think some of that trauma that has been put onto us, I think also for the adults that had the job of looking over us, I think they're traumatized by this situation as well. And unfortunately, it was traumatizing for us, so we don't remember anything from that experience. And they're still traumatized and they're still trying to work through it. And they don't want to bring it up because it was the scariest moment of their life, thinking that their child was going to be gone. And once again, I lived out your connection with animals. That's my life. It's always been my life. I grew up out in the middle of nowheres. I didn't have any humans to play with. I had a pet deer and a Doberman. The pet deer was my best friend. We rescued him. And then, unfortunately, one day I came home from school, and my best friend, I was 5 years old, my best friend was taken. Someone reported him. The government took him, and uh, that was the first loss I ever had. And the situations of being a vet and seeing these animals, I could not do that. Anytime I have a chicken or an animal pass away or get hurt, I'm better off. I love human beings with all my heart, but that same trauma of I trust animals more than I do humans, which is it's wrong of us. We understand that. We've worked through that, and that's why we're working with all of you now. I'm not on a farm, not talking to people. You're not in a vet. You're running a school for children and adults. So we worked out our trauma, but I know how that feels, and it's really easy to just give up on humanity and stick with these animals that are just pure love, unwavering. And I just really related to that part of your story. And it's absolutely fascinating how things evolved. And I think the main part of your story is you've always wanted to help. You wanted to help the animals, the humans, and you always wanted to do the right thing. And people like that, we are taken advantage of because we don't like to complain. Even when we get food and it's ordered wrong, we're like, oh, no problem, I'll just eat it. I don't want no confrontation, these good children. And so that's absolutely incredible. And I'm sure that was going to be one of the questions I have for you later. What things have you learned from working with children? I was going to ask you that question, but you just answered it with, Aramis. You just answered it, and you said that was one of the greatest lessons you learned, the information she gave you before, during, and even still today. Would you agree with that? Is that one of those things, probably one of the most powerful things you've learned?
I think in a macro level, yes, it is the most powerful. On a micro level, I think I'm still learning every single day through other people's children, through my clients and the work I'm doing now, which is just expanding the knowledge to a deeper level. So I think that it just depends on kind of the category in which we're looking at it, right? Because they're both very impactful.
Wow, that's amazing. And I can only imagine the scenarios and situations where you'll ask a kid something and they will always have those answers that are just completely outside of our rational way of thinking. And our first instinct is to say, no, you're wrong. And then we stop and we think and we're like, this 5-year-old did not just school me. No way. Then you think about it, you're like, oh man, like that childlike faith. Isn't it beautiful sometimes? It's amazing.
It is. And that's why they're here. And I think that my children, I was just telling a client today, I believe that our children are our greatest teachers. So perhaps I was my mother's greatest teacher and my children are my greatest teacher. It's just a matter of if we tune in and we listen to it and do we resist it? And I don't. I'm very different. And the best compliment I've ever received in my whole life, I'm going to tell you what it is. I've never shared this with anybody. And I don't think my mother even knows. The best compliment I've ever received my entire life from anybody was my mom said to me years ago, after I've had all three, she said, Sherri, I wish you were my mom. Because she's like, you love your children with everything. Like, you're so different than I was. And she's just like, I wish you were my mom. And like, it was like, what better compliment coming from your own mom? And, you know, she did the best she could. And I can't say that if I was in her shoes, I would have done it any better. But because I have different set of variables in my upbringing, and things are different for me than they were for her when she was young. And so we all do the best we can. But that was the best compliment I've ever received. And I believe that my children are my greatest teachers. And actually, one of the things that Aramis told me in one of my channelings at some point during the pregnancy was that the reason I have been blessed, or I will be blessed when she was born, after she's born, with 3 very different star seeds, because they are the three completely different categories. Was
solar opposites.
Exactly. Exactly. And she said that was to prepare me to be able to help children later. And I didn't get it back then and really what that meant. But she said, you're going to need this knowledge later. And now I'm like, oh, I get it. Because now when I help people, I can not only say I understand what the children are like, but I live it. And I am doing the things that I'm recommending other people to do. I've tried it myself and I'm trying, and things work and some things don't work. And I'm honest with people about it, but they're my greatest teachers, so that then I can help other parents raising star seeds. So it's a beautiful synchronistic and, you know, relationship with these beings that come in that aren't really our children outside of here. We're all equal. We're all just light beings coming in and playing roles in this particular life right now. And that's why we have to respect the children as individual beings, and not as property. You know, they don't belong to me. So
their soul, their light, their source energy, whatever people want to call it, it's very, very old, you know. And a lot of us that consider ourselves star seeds or spiritually in tune people, we have memories of being a child and knowing something that our parents didn't understand, and we remember those frustrations of like, why don't they get it, why don't they get it? And they would never listen. You know, it's that same situation. Just because they're in a smaller vessel and they're trying to learn this reality at this moment, that doesn't mean that they're completely unaware of what's going on. They're just in a different place at the moment, you know? And I think through their process of discovery, we learn through that, and
mhm.
we remember what we used to be, and before and before and before. That's amazing. And before we get started, because I definitely want to talk about the school, and you know, a lot of my subscribers, I have a lot of people out there, they have children, they have stepchildren, they have nieces, nephews, grandchildren, a lot of my subscribers. And I know a lot of them watch this show and they watch a lot of the interviews that we do with so many other people, and they love the information they're getting. But when it comes to their child, it's really, really, really hard to take these super complex ideas, which aren't really that complex, but just for the sake of argument, these very universal, big spiritual ideas, and how you deliver that to someone that is just tuning into this planet's frequency at the moment. It's I feel like it's trying to tune an instrument that is very, very tricky to do. So I have some photos and some of the courses that you've taught at the school, but before I pop them up, a little introduction about the overall of what's going on with the Aramis Creative Learning Center, and you know, just go through that a little bit, and I'll pop up some of the courses and you'll be able to talk about each one briefly to let people know, you know, what you're doing and some of the curriculums that you're teaching.
Yeah, yes, that's a great idea. First, let me explain how I even got to being an educator, because clearly anyone watching this at this point has not heard me say anything about being a children's educator, right? So we have to pivot back to how this happened. So while I started my own business after my daughter was born. I was really miserable at the zoo. I decided I just wasn't feeling that energy anymore. I started to become sad about the zoos in general. Didn't really identify with them in cages, and I started to change. My consciousness shifted, and I needed to get out of there. It was just sucking the life out of me. So I started my own. I opened a wellness center, and it was focused on doing sessions and quantum healing. I moved from Reiki more to quantum healing through my own kind of evolution. So I did lots of different types of healing and intuitive guidance sessions for adults. I also learned how to do hypnobirthing because I was motivated after 3 difficult and challenging births of my own, one compounding and making the next one more challenging based on fear. I wanted to do something better and to help people. Again, I wanted to help people not have the experience that I had. So I became a hypnobirthing practitioner. And for those people that don't know what that is, it's a method of childbirth. It's a childbirth class that teaches self-hypnosis, relaxation techniques through breathing. I'm also a master transpersonal hypnotherapist, which I used to do for a while, very similar to QHHT. And so I would do hypnosis with the women throughout their pregnancy to help them really train themselves through repetition on how to relax, and also to teach them about their body and how the body innately knows what to do. And so, and the misconceptions of birth and all the lies out there of the challenges that we go through and these misconceptions that aren't true. And so I really was passionate about that. And what's important about that is I worked with hundreds of couples, and I became friends with those people. And then I started to see their children grow. And I was introduced to working with children as a result of that. And so I started to attract a lot more children. So then I was doing healing on children and getting intuitive guidance from children. Then that morphed into attracting the labeled children, which is another one of my life missions, to get rid of the labels. Because what happened was I started to work with nonverbal children, autistic, dyslexic, all the labeled children. And I connected to their spirit. And I was blown away by what I discovered is that every single labeled characteristic that these children have, there's an energetic reason for it. And there's an explanation. And it was blowing my mind that why are we medicating these children? These are gifts. They are misunderstood. And they are, well, we know why they're labeled, because there's the dark agenda of wanting to suppress the light within us from birth and from the womb and birth, with the hundreds of things that they do, which we don't need to get into. And it's all about suppressing our light, because they knew that the star seeds were coming in. We've been coming in. You're a star seed. I'm a star seed. We've been coming in for quite some time now, for thousands of years, really. So they needed to do whatever they could to suppress these gifts. So they turned it on them and said they started labeling them, listing them. If they don't fit in the box of societal norms, then they need to be medicated, or they need to be in special classes, and they became outcasts. And these parents would come to me either one at their wits' end because their child was no longer present, because they were completely medicated and they lost themselves, and they were like, I want my child back. Can you help? So they came to me for energy healing and more of a spiritual perspective. And then I also saw those parents that were at the point where medication was being recommended. Well, really, they were being bullied into it, and they didn't want to do that. So they were like, help me. So what we discovered through these sessions was that a lot of these star seeds were new earth children, which is why I call them new earth children, meaning they have never been here before. So they are not acclimated to this density, to these bodies, and to our way of living. They don't recognize reading a book. They don't recognize speaking a language. They speak through harmony and tones and telepathic connection. They walk different because they're trying to figure out how to walk in these weird bodies. So they walk a little funny. They act a little quirky. They don't want to look in people's eyes because they say that they see into the soul. They see the demons that the people have. They see too much and they're overwhelmed. So they're like, I don't want to see it all of your. It's like looking at an adult naked. Like they don't want to see it. And they don't want to play with, some of them don't want to play with toys. They don't want to be children. That's why a large percentage of New Earth children are walk-ins, which is a whole other thing we can talk about. They don't want to be children because they don't want to go through that awkward developmental stage where the brain can't fit the intelligence that's coming in because our bodies are so vulnerable. So they don't want to do it. So they'll walk in later. So there's so many factors. And I was like blown away by all this information because I didn't ask for it. It just kind of fell into my lap. So I wrote a second book about it. This is my first book, was for the people that I was guiding and giving the same advice to time after time again. And I was like, wow, I need to just put it in a book. I'm saying the same things over. And I was teaching classes to adults on anything you can imagine. I teach everything, a lot of things, not everything, but a lot of things. And so everything was expanding in my world and my reality, but I became very focused on children suddenly and helping them. And disconnecting from labels and helping parents navigate through challenging time. So I had this, what I thought was an epiphany where, oh, this is what I was supposed to do with Aramis. I'm supposed to open up a wellness center, metaphysical place for children to come to learn how to navigate being a starseed and to learn about energy, kind of like a Sunday school, but for spirituality. And it's extracurricular. It's not anything to do with schools. It's something that they can do in addition to their regular life and come in. And it's a beautiful spiritual center for children. Like who wouldn't want that? And that's what I thought. I was like, oh, that's what I'm going to help Aramis with. Okay, I love that idea. Beautiful. That's not what we were meant to do, but that kind of guided me to the next step of opening up to the possibility of now branching into something much bigger with children focused. Then the pandemic happened. And everybody became acutely aware of the problems with the school system. And it just blew my mind, all the things that were wrong with how our children are programmed and indoctrinated in the schools. And around that time, I started getting more clients from around the world and doing sessions on their children that would tell me all the things that go on in the school energetically that I had no idea about. And I was like, oh my gosh, we have to change this, from the energetic grids that they place around the schools to lower the vibration of the children to make them more susceptible to hypnosis.
The lights they use.
The fluorescent lighting, we could do a whole nother talk about that. And I did at the last conference I did, that's really what I talked about, are all the things that they do to suppress the children. And schooling is just phase one of them to get to a point where they're adults and they're manageable. Their light is dimmed. They lose connection with themselves, and they can be easily programmed to go into society and do what they want us to do and disconnect us.
Indoctrinate, not educate.
Exactly. And everything changed for me. And I was like, oh my God, we have to do something about this. And I started to create classes online of the things that I believe that children should be learning. And the next thing you know, I'm creating a school. And my husband was like, Sherri, you've been talking about this for years. The school system's going to change. It's going to collapse. Something new is going to come. But I didn't know you were the one that was going to do it. And I was like, wow, like I didn't either. And I'm not saying that I'm the only one, but I sure, like, Mama Bear came out of me and I was like, oh no, we're not doing this anymore. And then we used to call it divinely guided children because I love the word divinely guided. I use it a lot, the term divinely guided. And so I was like, these children are divinely guided and we need to protect them. So I started Divinely Guided Children, which was the online virtual platform. And it was in person at my wellness center in the beginning, because it's been open for a little over 2 years now. We did have in-person classes, but it didn't go over well because I happened to live in an area that had a lot of this going on. And I said, no, none of this is allowed in my wellness center, and children will not have this. And nobody came, only a few. And I was like, well, I guess that didn't work. So we'll go online and do virtual classes. And we kind of just kept that. And one day I had an epiphany where I said, oh my God, this is what Aramis is here to do. This is her legacy. So I changed the name to Aramis Creative Learning Center after her, because I finally figured it out. Took me a while, because
It always does. It
Spirit
always
doesn't
does.
always they don't always give you all the information, because they don't want you to know everything all at once. You need to be ready for it. And that's the biggest challenge with our spiritual evolution, is us having patience. Because when you look back on anybody listening to this at your life, there are stages of development we have to go through, and different challenges in our journey is going to merge up with the information that we're provided. So they can't give us all the information at once. And honestly, if someone had told me back when I was pregnant with her, now I'm going to have 3 children on the salary that I was having at the time, that I was going to do what I'm doing now, I would have been like, no, thanks. I don't want to do it. It's too much. Honestly and truly, that's probably what I would have said. But now it's like, they brought me into like a little bit at a time, so that I wouldn't feel too overwhelmed going to the next step. And so now here we are. So that's where the birth of Aramis Creative Learning Center came from. It was my version of creating an alternative education platform for children all over the world. My vision was vast, and it still is. I mean, these centers will be also in person in every state, in many cities within the states, and all over the world. And this is the future, I believe, of education that is only ready now. It wouldn't have worked 5 years ago. It certainly wouldn't have worked 10, 15, 20 years ago. And there have been similar places that have opened up, like Sudbury, Waldorf, and Montessori. But to the degree of what I want to create, and a massive, large scale all over the world, it would not have worked until now. Now's the time for it. And that's why I believe that's why I'm here to help bring it to fruition, so that my daughter can then carry it forward.
Wow, that's beautiful. And this is a perfect segue. Everything we learn, it comes to us, but not too much. Like you said, our brains would fall out if we got hit with too much, and we wouldn't want to do it. It needs to be a slow process. So my question is, with that point being made, that we got to be cautious, that we're not overloading the young people, in the same sense of that our team hasn't overloaded us. And I have these, some of the classes, I'm sure a lot of people, well, what do you say about math? How do you teach astrology, crystals, all these things? How are you doing this to the kids and helping them learn these things in a way that doesn't overload them? So if you could, Sherri, I'm going to pop these pictures up. And I would love for everyone to see, and just a little brief details of each one, to give everyone an idea of some of the courses you've had in the past. And towards the end, we'll get to this month's courses. So take it away, Sherri.
Yeah, so this is a good a variety of showcasing, the arena of the types of classes we want to offer, because we want to have a nice variety. So we have chakras and crystals. So take a class and you learn all about the chakras and the crystals that correlate with those chakras. We have psychic spies. We try to make it fun, but it's all about remote viewing and psychic abilities, and tuning into your psychic gifts. Then we have, and that Mark Sabas is one of our most popular teachers with his content, and he has a ton of classes like that. We also have strong kids. Movement is important. So teaching children about movement and stretch and our bodies, because we need to channel energy, and they learn about energy and exploring movement and strength, incorporating the mind, body, and spirit. I'm big on animals. So we have a lot of animal themed classes. So we have spirit animal readings. We have animal totem classes, animal communication, animal art classes. We have introduction to astrology. And everything here has an age group, but then we try to expand it. So we'll do a higher age or a lower age, or sometimes it's all ages, because we want the children to be mixed into different age groups, because it's important that they collaborate together and learn together, and not so segregated by age. So
yeah, that's a great point. The mixing of that. And oh man, let me tell you, all of those courses sound fun. It makes me want to do them, especially the remote viewing ones. Sign me up, Mark Sabbath. I'll be in
I
there.
mean, imagine being a child, being able to pick from those classes and not being forced to sit 6 hours a day learning the core classes that we have now, and being miserable and talk about overwhelmed and overstimulated. That's what that's what they do with these children, and then they short circuit. So we need to provide a learning environment that's fun, where they are learning things that are actually, in my opinion, way more important. All of that stuff is important to know, because it all relates as a human being as a whole to everyday life. It really does. So the idea is exposure to a lot of different things that I think are fundamental.
Mm-hmm. And let me say, I know everyone that's watching this is thinking this. Sherri, where were you when we were kids?
I get that all the time. I do. I really get that all the time.
Like earlier when you brought it up real quick, I just want to mention I was one of the first people diagnosed with ADD, put on Ritalin, etc. I had autism, dyslexia. I couldn't speak, really close with animals. Ended up winning my school's math bee. One of those kind of situations, kind of like Rayman. And the entire system, why they diagnosed me with that was because, and I said this in your chat the other night, because I would do drums with my pencil. And that was just a part of my creative process. And then later down the road, I'm native. Okay. That's a part of my culture. That's how we get in tune with the universe. I went on to be a professional rock star, CD in stores, everything. And I was punished and outcasted for being in tune. And that medication they put me on broke my mother's heart, seeing me as a robot. Like all of my light was just, it was so sad. And if I would have had something like this, I can't imagine. And I am jealous in the best possible way, because the fact that it's here now, this is time for us to make up for everything before, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the end goal is to create in-person centers so we can be around each other again, and imagine an environment where children can go, where it's self-directed learning. So they can pick the classes that they want for the entire month. They could take one class a day. They could take 3 or 4 or 5 classes a day. They could choose to be outside doing animal science and taking care of the horses all day on Monday, and they don't even see a textbook. The next day they might do art, and then maybe they like engineering and they take some engineering classes. It's all designed in a way where it's real life relatability. So they're doing math without realizing it. They're doing a nutrition class or cooking, and they're measuring, and they're doing math that's fun, because they get why they're doing it. That's what we're trying to do. We want them to have fun, and we have to change the terminology. So we don't use the word school. That's just louche, and we don't want to use that word. So we call it learning centers. We don't have teachers. We have mentors. We got to break the spells of the words that we're using. We don't have grades. We won't have tests. There's no competition. It's collaborative. It's the young kids working with the old kids. It's being outside in nature, connecting with nature, connecting with animals, learning how to grow your own food, how to sew, how to build. But also the spiritual element to me is very important. And this is, when I say spiritual, people automatically assume it's religious, and it's really not. It's about recognizing that we're multidimensional beings, that we're energy, and what vibration means, and how do you channel your emotional energy. How do you navigate through challenging emotions, like anger and frustration, by tapping, by breathing, all of these different techniques we can teach them. How to work through conflict resolution, how to work through challenges with other children and other adults, how to be seen, how to be heard. What is Reiki, how to heal yourself, how to heal animals, all the
universal
knowledge, how to
consciousness,
telepathically. And what that means, and what's this consciousness mean, like all of those things and I guarantee you, if we all had that upbringing, we would be completely different adults. And you and I talked about how this we've been trying to navigate through this dark matrix, convoluted matrix for a really long time. And a lot has been stacked against us on purpose because of the matrix that we're in. But we are now collectively waking up, and as a collective, and it's our job to help pave the way, because these children are here for a reason. And if they weren't coming, I wouldn't believe that we were actually transitioning through an ascension. But because they are, and I see them every day, and I work with children all over the world that are coming in like comets, and they're here to help make a difference. But they need our help because they're little bodies. They're not adults yet. Even though their mind and intellectually and consciously, they're way more evolved than we are, they're still children. And they need the adults to work together, stop fighting with each other, stop pretending that you're the center of the universe, and recognize that we are, as a collective, all connected. If you think about the metaphor of God being in a very simplistic metaphor, if you think about God and source being a human body, and each and every human being or star being or any fractal of light is a cell within a human body, we're all connected. The body feels everything. So if something happens to the arm, the whole body feels it. The blood running through the body is the life force energy of the universe. So when we have this egotistical driven society where we believe that we are not connected, if you recognize that Robert and Sherri are just fractals of the same light, just like everyone else, and we are all connected through this beautiful consciousness, this beautiful web, then we truly have empathy. That's when we start to say, oh, when Robert hurts, oh man, I'm hurting too, because we're connected. Ouch, ouch, do you feel that? And it's not physical, it's emotional. And when we connect on a level of spirituality that is so much more profound than what we can see and what we can feel, we recognize and we have empathy and compassion for others. And we need ego, because ego is what makes Sherri realize I'm Sherri and I'm an individual, and Robert is too. We need that, but we have to keep the ego, the shadow side, in check and recognize at the end of the day that we are all one. And that's where the empathy is the pain that you feel is the pain that I feel. The happiness that I feel is the happiness that you feel. And when we start to look at everyone else in the world around us as an integral part of our connectivity and our consciousness and our evolution, then we stop fighting with each other. And that's the lesson that I learned when I was 23 years old, when I had my son. And instead of looking at everyone like the enemy and that they were separate of me, I started to realize that we are actually all connected, and their pain is my pain. And we constantly are mirroring and projecting our pain onto other people, and we attract that into our world. And if we just stop for a minute and realize that we are all one, that the light in me is in the light in you, and vice versa, then we would stop hurting each other, because at the end of the day, we're just hurting ourselves. And that's what the children are here to teach us, and they need our help. And that's what I'm here to do.
And you said one of my favorite words, the web, the great cosmic web, I call it, that connectivity, all throughout, and you're absolutely spot on. And, if it's not for coming together for this universal cosmic connectivity, we as adults have to really come together for these kids and for the future. And so even if people out there, they don't like me or an individual, we got to put that stuff to the side and make sure we're setting an example for the future that resides within all of these souls that are getting dropped off like comets, as you said, left and right. And they are coming in
here. So they're here. They're an army of light, and they're ready to be of service.
So I want to keep going through there's so many more awesome classes, but great point. It had to be said. But here's the second one, and I'm not going to lie, these look really, really awesome. So go ahead.
Yeah, so we have, exploring ETs, UFOs, galactics, the purpose of a star, the soul's purpose or a soul's journey as a starseed, more remote viewing, dream weavers, understanding and interpreting dreams, tapping into your psychic powers, more astrology, and we do offer a lot of classes, the same classes for adults now, because I got the same question from parents. Oh my God, can I take this class too? And we're like, and so now we offer it for adults as well. So did you have another slide?
Oh yeah, definitely.
Okay. I mean, we have hundreds of classes that we have cataloged, but sensing auras, are you a starseed? How do you decipher soul, afterlife, reincarnation, creative writing classes, let children write what they want to write about. Don't tell them how to write and intro and middle and conclusion and all that. Let them just write what they want to write and what they feel. And that's what that's about, tapping into your creative abilities. Then we have superpowers and psychic abilities, how to connect with your intuition. We also have a class that I used to teach called Spiritual Beginnings, where we learned all of the terminology: soul, spirit, light body,
Wow.
angel, spirit guide, all of that. So we
That's
can keep going.
awesome. Wow.
We have Aramis yoga, which is just, movement and stretch, working with crystals, creating crystal grids. There are also beginner level crystal classes, just learning the energy of crystals, how to work with crystals, how to clear crystals, spiritual science. We wanted to start incorporating math and science and the other subjects so that parents would feel like they are learning some of the core values as well, the core subjects as well. So we do spiritual science. So we make it relatable to spiritual, because I believe that that's the future of sciences. We're going to start incorporating the energetic aspect, what we can't see and not necessarily prove, the metaphysical side. We also have like mindfulness math. So it's learning math, but in a mindful way. So it's relatable to your real life. So you're not thinking it's a waste of your time. That's really important. We also have fun classes like creating your own organite pyramid, where they get to pick their own crystals and their own colors and why do you pick these crystals? What's the significance of the metals and the colors? Pick an affirmation and connect to it. And then they design it. And then I have Carla, who's from Ascension Organites, who's lovely, who made all of our original Aramis and Sky Universal official organites, and she makes them and sends them out to them. We also had a class like infusion of candles, so they pick their scents, their the color and the crystals, and learn about it, and then they create their. So we want to have fun. We want to keep incorporating the core values of spirituality and what it is to be a being, and then make it fun. So we're constantly every month, coming up with new and exciting classes. Dr. Dan Seda just joined our team, lovely, lovely gentleman. And he's teaching, he's bringing in what I've been wanting for a while, which is the musical element, because it's really hard to do that over Zoom. But we're doing piano, intro to piano, voice. He's going to start doing some mentorship with children one-on-one. And a bunch of other things he's going to be offering. So we're constantly bringing, we're starting a new series on intuitive eating and healthy eating habits and having a better relationship with food. So that's also coming. It's never ending. We have so much ideas that we don't have enough mentors and time to put it out. That's how much we have.
That's a good problem to have. And we could say that you're putting the magician into math.
Yes.
You're wordplay that has
Yes.
meaning,
Yes.
And so and before we talk about the classes you got going on now for January, I have 3 slides. I want everyone to know, please go into the description of this video. You will find the website for Aramis Creative Learning Center. You'll find all of that down there, the different courses they have, additional information, Sherri's book, etc. So much information. I spent probably 3 hours this morning going through Sherri's Instagram and going through the website and the amazing people and staff you have there. I was blown away. And after hearing this, you're giving me, I'm sure all the people that are watching this, you are giving us hope for our future. It's actually it's enlightening, and it's amazing because it's the children doing it, and you're just transferring that. And you went through so much as a child, very much like myself. And it's interesting, as you said, it seems like when we learn suffering, we learn compassion, and compassion leads to suffering. It does hurt to want to save someone that you can't really save, and when you are hurt, you learn what it feels like. So it's like we're transmuting these energies, we're accepting our traumas, we're recognizing them, we're working through them, and we're transmuting them into something beautiful that is beyond us, others. And wow, just blown away. So January 2023, tell me what you got going on.
Yeah, so this month we're bringing in more mindfulness math, like we talked about, and Kanchi, who teaches that, she's a lovely woman from Australia. she just every class she just brings more and more. So it's every class is different. So this class is one that your child could take all the time, and she's never going to do the same thing twice. So it's just all about what she comes up with, which is they have a lot of fun. Spiritual science, it looks like self-love is this month's theme. Finding your voice. Oh, there's dance class, finding your voice. By the way, just to give Dan a plug, my daughter is doing a private class with him, and she loves him, and he's fantastic. So sneak peek on that. We also have some more astrology. We have tons of art. So one class we're doing is the abstract art. What else we got? Is there another one?
Oh, yeah. Great classes.
Breathwork for kids. This is important. We need to teach children how to breathe correctly and how to channel energy and frustration through your breath. And it really is a life-changing technique to calm children down and adults. And I'm a big fan of that. Magic of Unicorns. I think this is the second time we're offering this one. I think it's a beautiful, majestic type of class, and it's real popular. And another popular one is Empowered Through Movement, where Mel goes through various different techniques on moving the body and understanding the significance of that. Sacred Geometry is one that I've been wanting for a while, and they put that on there for me because I was like, we need to do a Sacred Geometry class. So this is the first time we're doing this one.
That's awesome.
And then continuation of Unleashing Your Psychic Powers. Remote viewing again. I think that might be an adult class. Finding Your Voice again. What do we have? Astrology, chart reading. So they'll get more in depth in learning the charts. Pendulums and chakra clearings using your pendulums.
Wow. Yeah. And that's it.
I can't ever keep it.
And that's basically the curriculum for this month, right? And that changes every month?
Every month. So what I want people to recognize, because I get a lot of emails about this, the way the school is set up, the center is set up right now, is it's extracurricular based. So really a large portion of the children that take the classes with us now are homeschooled because their parents are looking for more to offer them, more variety. But at the same time, we also get a lot of children that are in public school or private school that take these classes for fun because they actually want to learn these things. So it's on top of school, but they take them on the weekend and evenings because they want something more they're not getting from their regular school. So really it's for everybody, but it's only online, and it's a la carte. So you could take one class a month, or you could take all the classes a month. There's no minimum or maximum, but it's not a curriculum. We need to get away from the curriculum-based learning because that's crumbling, and people need to recognize what's coming because they're going to be a little bit freaked out when they see that when the education system collapses and this new wave of alternative platform surfaces, we will have no more diplomas, degrees, and none of this, no grades, no competition. Like I said, no testing, no standardized testing, no SATs. So when people ask me, what's your curriculum? I say, gross curriculum. No such thing. I want every teacher, every single class to have the complete freedom within confines. And of course we monitor to do what they feel is best in the way that the children can learn, that is fun, engaging. And it's all about the children. All we think about for every move we make is this best for the children? Are they going to like it? Are they going to learn something? And that's it. No ulterior motive, nothing else. It's not about money. It's not about fame. It's really, truly all about them. And what can we teach them? What do they need to know? What do they want to know? And so it changes all the time. So there's no curriculum. And sometimes even the same class isn't going to be the same twice, because it's really, we go with the flow of the ages of the children that are in the class, how engaged they are within it. And it's just, it's unique every single time. So it's really for fun. It's really for fun.
And that's a great point, because when I taught English, I would just kind of go with the flow. And even when I was a pastor, I would never write things out, because I learned sometimes there are certain things that are brought up in that something will happen the day before, maybe something traumatic, and we need to address that and grow. But when you have the awful curriculum word, it confines you, into a set thing and you are not addressing what needs to be addressed in that moment and what your guides are telling you, because I got to go to according a plan, but things change. And what sometimes what you say a month ago can really change just a few weeks after. So I agree with you. That's brilliant. Break the chains, change the system. And, all of those things you said that aren't going to exist, the competition, the test, grades, all of this, it's all nonsense. And it doesn't really help us with our evolution. It actually holds us back big time, unfortunately. So that's awesome. Now, before we start to wrap things up, so you're doing this online. Do you have anything in the works? Anything set in the stars that you're reaching for? Plans, developments?
Yeah, well, always, Robert. Always. I always have lots of stuff going on. We have our cartoon animation that I started about a year and a half ago. We have 16 episodes called Divinely Guided Children. They're on my YouTube channel, but there's also a dedicated children's one, so it doesn't have all the adult content with it. And they're short animated cartoons that are teaching children what I believe they should be learning in school, the fundamentals, the basics, intuitive eating, just anything you can imagine. Check it out. There's 16 or 17 episodes at this point.
Information and even fear. Fire can transmute anything into light. You can call on the element of fire when you need courage, and you will feel brave.
How do we call on the fire element, Aramis?
Great question. You close your eyes and hold out your hand and ask Mother Earth to send you the element of fire. Visualize a ball of orange and red light in the palm of your hand. Once you feel it there, you can imagine it going into your hand and traveling through your body and turning all fear into courage. Let's try it together. Let's stand together and close your eyes. Ask the earth to send you the energy of fire to your hands. And let's hold out our hands to receive it. Can anyone feel it?
And I'm really excited about the one we're doing right now because it has to do with inner earth and it's going to be really fun. So that one's in production. We just finished one that was called Jordan and Dreams. So it was all about dreams. We did Journey of a Starseed. Before that, we did Aramis and the Spiritual Toolbox, teaching children valuable spiritual tools. We did Skylar and Greek mythology. I mean, so many fun episodes, and they translate into books. So we have 6 or 7 books out now available on Amazon that are children's books that are based off the cartoons. So it's all about giving children something to read, something to watch that's good for them. We also have something called Sky Universal that I haven't really talked about much because it's a huge project, and I know it's quite controversial, the virtual reality world, but I'm telling you, we still have to engage with technology because we are moving in the direction of advanced technology. But what we're creating is a very safe, because that's my number one priority in this project, a Sky Universal world. That is virtual reality where children, it's a part of Aramis Creative Learning Center where children can go and they can do field trips to the Space Center, to the moon, to Atlantis, to Lemuria, to Mount Olympus. You name it, we're creating it, and it's going to be an immersive experience where children can go in and have their avatar and an animal. Everyone gets an animal, and the animal grows with them, and they get to fly around our world on hovercrafts, but also ski and go on jet ski on the ocean, and then there'll be concerts in there, lectures. We'll host retreats in there for adults. I mean, it's huge. It's huge. So that's in the works as well. We also have the Aramis Collective. So we started a nonprofit a year ago or so to help fund all this, because Sherri was funding all of this up until a point where.
Is this what this is about, or is this a property? Is this something else? Future project?
So the Aramis Collective is our nonprofit that helps pay or fund all of the things I just mentioned: the books, the animation, the Sky Universal World,
Wow.
any other projects that we do, and it helps with the help paying Aramis Creative Learning Center to keep it going, to keep it running, the website, the legal fees, basically everything that I was paying for, and now we're getting help through donations. So we get donations all the time through different avenues, and that supports all of the growth that I'm just talking about. Now, the next phase of Aramis Creative Learning Center, which is why I moved to Florida, is we are planning to open the very first physical location so children can actually go to an Aramis center, and that is what we are fundraising. Partly what we're fundraising for is to buy the land, so that we can open the first center. And
wow.
So there's so much in the works, but this will be the first of many locations, because Florida, West Palm Beach will just be the first, but there will be, like I said, they will be in every state and all over the world. So it's just the first of many to come. So we got
Yes, so
we have a
everyone
lot
watching,
going on.
please donate. Go in the description. There will be a donation link as well. If you feel led to donate, please do that. Sorry to cut you off, Sherri. I just wanted everyone to know this is something I really believe in, and I highly recommend, if you're able to just help out, and every penny counts, and it's really what needs to be done. And I love what you said too, Sherri, about this virtual world that so many people in this community are, oh no, it's AI and stuff. If we don't go in there and spread light, it will be nothing but darkness.
Exactly.
No, we need to go into the darkness. That's why we came here to this planet. So I really admire that. And I know a lot of people will think it's controversial, but once again, you're doing the work and it needs to be done. That's amazing. Wow.
I mean, we have a lot of projects going on. The point I'm trying to make is there's a lot of balls kind of flying around, and we're managing a lot, and we're constantly expanding, and it's really exciting. And I think a lot's going to occur during 2023. And, I'm trying to work with as many children one-on-one all over the world to help them find themselves, help them recognize their journey, but also navigate through the challenges that they're having being a human first, second, third time, or just integrating their wisdom with themselves. Like I mentioned earlier, the walk-ins, there's more walk-ins than I've ever seen before. And that really truly is them resisting being a young man, young girl. It's really being a human. And then you add being a vulnerable infant, toddler human is one of the most challenging things about being being in this planet to begin with. And so a lot of them are choosing to come in a little bit later, 2, 3, 4, 5 years old. So there's a pre-walk-in that comes in, which seems to be most often an angelic, an angel that comes in human form to make sure that they're very kept well, and they're very balanced before the walk-in comes through. So there's a lot more of those. So I'm helping a lot of those work through that. So, there's never a dull moment. There's always something going on. And I have a big vision. And that's why when I see the controversy of just people fighting for nothing, out of ego, I just want to scream out like with a megaphone, stop, you're focusing on the wrong thing. Don't get distracted, come to the light and focus on what can we do to make things better? Like, let's do something, and a lot of people come to me and they're like, well, Sherri, I don't know what to do. Cause I still work with a lot of adults, just as many adults as I work with children. And I think that we're in this interesting in-between phase right now where a lot of people that are in their 40s, 50s, 60s, even 70s have gotten to a point where they're like, I am done with all of this. I want to do something. I want something different, but I don't quite know what that is yet. And they're in this kind of in-between cycle. And I say, listen, you signed up to come and be within all of the negative matrix and the crumbling of that, and be here in the in-between and be here for the rebuild. This is this is what you chose to do. You chose to experience both so that you know it's wrong and you would be motivated to fix it. So we have a lot of people right now kind of on the fence of what is it that I'm supposed to do next. And the thing that I would say to that is, I believe that a lot of the new jobs and new things that we're going to be doing haven't been invented yet. There aren't names for them. So the people that can't figure out what they're going to do next, perhaps it's because it hasn't come to fruition yet. So that particular job or role is not available at this time. So you're not knowing yet what it is that you're going to do because it's not ready yet. So everything is about divine timing right now. And even me, I could easily get frustrated and be like, oh, why isn't the first center open right now? What's taking so long? These should be open everywhere. Yes, all true and all valid points that I'm making to myself. But humanity also has to be ready for this to roll out in a way that's safe for the children, that humanity is ready for it. There's less resistance. There's a lot of stuff that has to happen first. So even I catch myself saying, well, this is moving too slow. And I have to continuously remind myself, just like I remind my clients, it's all about timing. And we are not in control of time, because divine time, God's time, whatever you want to say, it doesn't have a date on a calendar. It's not possible, because no way to predict when that moment or that energetic spark is going to create that reality that is next. There's no time frame. It just, when it happens, it happens. And there are all the variables that have to line up in order for that to occur. You can't predict it. So in the meantime, what we can do while we wait is to be productive. So we focus on going within ourselves. Stop trying to communicate with galactics. You're just tapping into AI. You're getting yourself into trouble most of the time if you don't know what you're doing. So the best thing you can do is strengthen the connection with your intuition and your spirit, your soul that wants to talk to you, that is ready and willing to tell you probably anything you need to know. You can find out yourself. Really and truly, because it's all about connecting to or tapping into the collective consciousness, which is where all the knowledge resides. So if there's something you truly want to know, then work on grounding yourself, having an intuitive lifestyle, mindfulness, being mindful of your emotions, channeling that energy in the right way, trusting yourself, loving yourself, forgiving others, and shifting your whole lifestyle so that you can bring more light in, raise your vibration, bring more light in, and then bam, your connection to your intuition will be strong, and you will know what it is that you need to do. There's so many distractions out there that your light, I promise you, your light will never guide you down the wrong path, ever. But you have to listen to your own light, not the person next to you and what they're telling you to do, not this person on this podcast. Don't give your power away to anybody. That's where we are right now. And that is what this ascension is about discernment and people recognizing that they are enough. They have everything and all the tools that they will ever need. And as soon as they believe that, it's game over. Boom, the lights come on, and now we get to go to the next reality. But until then, people are in ego, they are in denial, they are in fear, they are in shame. And when they are like that, then they project that out, and the universe brings it right back, and we remain in this matrix, and they're not ready to evolve yet. And so I think that's what the children are trying to teach us, how to do that. And, and it's challenging, and it's not easy, and it takes a lot of effort, and it's every single day you have to work for it, because it's a lifestyle. And I'm not perfect. Robert's not perfect. We work at ourselves all the time. Yeah. I'm just human like everyone else. And, and I have a bad day, and and then I yell at my kids, and then I feel awful about it. And I'm like, but then you do better. My favorite quote that I use all the time is, every day is a clean slate to be a better version of you.
Oh, good one.
I say that all the time to everybody. And I say it to myself, all right, Sherri, you messed up today. Tomorrow you start fresh, and you have a new opportunity to do better, to treat your children better, to be nicer to your husband, to do this better, to have a better attitude, to love yourself more. And we learn, and we evolve, and we grow. That's how we grow as a collective, as opposed to projecting our traumas and our judgment on ourselves outward to everybody else. And that this is where we are. This is the reality of where we are right now.
Wow. And I just want to, something you said, and you're absolutely right. Sometimes what we will end up doing and our mission is non-existent right now. A perfect example. Let's go back to 1993 and someone told you that you'll be using webcams and using an internet and talking to people all around the world. It didn't exist. What you're doing now didn't exist. It wasn't quite fully that possible back then. But now it is. And as you said, there's a moment, there's a time that will come up when it is time for it to come up. And when you have went through the process, the different lessons of your journey and not learning too much at once, little bits at a time. That was such a beautiful point you brought up. And it doesn't matter how old, how young you are, it's all the same process. That's one thing that stays the same. The pursuit of knowledge throughout the universe is one of the main reasons so many beings are coming here to begin with. It's a never-ending quest, and no one has all the answers. And I'm thankful because life would be boring. And one last final question. I do want to ask you one question. I think it's so important, and I'm sure everyone watching this is something they would love to hear your response on. So many of my subscribers, their children, grandchildren, niece, nephews, they have starseed children and relatives. And some of them have been contacting me, and there's a lot of challenges with that, and you've touched on some of that. But if you could, and I know each one is such a unique sovereign being. It's almost like it's a different situation with each child, truly. But if you could give overall some sort of answer, is what is one of the best ways to help your starseed child, grandchild, niece, or nephew to really walk into who they are? What's the overall advice that you could give to the people watching this to help them in helping the children usher in their sovereignty and who they are? What any advice would be extremely appreciated.
That's the million dollar question, and you actually hit the exact point. And I'm going to tell everybody that you're not taking the easy road, and that's the challenge, because there is no easy road with raising these starseed children, because part of why they're here is to break us out of our habits and to make us think things in a completely different way, make us reevaluate all of our programming, make us unravel the layers of us and layers until we find our truth and recognize that we can no longer say, because I said so, because that's how it's always been done. They are asking questions and they are not accepting that answer anymore. It's why. And why does it have to be done that way? Because they are really planting the seeds in our minds of, why does it have to be this way? And just because it was done 50, 100, 150 years ago, where we are in this modern world right now, where we are collectively as conscious beings in our enlightenment, in our stage of consciousness, does that actually still work? And most of the time we can see that no, actually it doesn't. So they're here to show us that we need to have change. And so that's why they can be called so challenging and be called, they're so difficult, because they're here to break us out of that hypnotic state. And so the best advice that I can give you is you have to look at every single child as an individual. And it is very hard to do that. You cannot parent them all the same. You cannot treat them all the same. And you cannot expect the same from all of them. They are actually here to be seen as an individual and honored for who they are and what knowledge they're bringing in, because they're all bringing in characteristics and knowledge that is suitable for their journey, but also to reflect that in humanity and to teach that. So the strong-willed leaders are here to show us another way to lead. So you need to listen to them and value and respect them, not for their 4, 5, 7-year-old self or even 17-year-old self, but man, the wisdom that they bring in, listen to what they have to say, because they're trying to show you this is the way that you're going to be doing it. And it may not make sense to you right now, but I'm telling you that it will later. And this is how it's going to be done. So you either listen to me now, or it's going to be real uncomfortable and you're going to resist, but we're still going to get to that point. You decide how you want to handle this, and then we have the other ones that are very intellectual, and they require different styles of parenting, and they need choices. They need to feel empowered. Then there are those that are very sensitive and need extra nurturing, and they want to, a lot of them just want to feel safe. They want to feel loved. They want to feel supported. They want to feel safe. They want to feel loved. They want to feel supported, but they also want to feel heard. So when they're telling you about their past lives or what they're here to do, or they're arguing with you about something that you're telling them, well, this is how we've always done it. It has to be done this way. And they look at you and say, well, why? They're encouraging you to actually go within yourself and say, reevaluate. Is this actually right? Is there a better way to do it? And remember that because they're multidimensional beings, they think 3, 4, 5 steps ahead of you. So they're processing way quicker. So you have to catch up. So you have to listen with an open heart and really see between the lines and what they're saying, and see those 3, 4, 5 steps out and recognize, oh man, I think they're right. And so they just want to be heard. They just want to be respected. Because they're here to change almost everything about everything we know. And so there is no right or wrong. There is no magic answer that I could give anybody. It's individual and unique for every family, depending on where you live, how much money you have, the resources you have. You have to handle everything differently. And there's no accident as to why you're living in any area of the world with the resources that you have, because that's what you chose to do. So it's about working with that and recognizing that the child, they're not your property, that you signed up to be their mother, father, grandparent, whatever, caretaker, so that they could come in and feel safe and loved and nourished for this particular period of their life, so that they can go off and do what they came here to do. And you cannot control them, and you cannot make decisions for them based on what you think is best for them because of your perception, or push them into doing something that you wished you had done that's not right for them. So this is honestly a conversation that is an hour long, but I'm trying to condense it down into a lot of different tidbits. But the reality of it is that they are coming in with so much wisdom, that they're here to teach us, and they just want us to listen. They just want us to
hashtag children save us.
Exactly.
We see so much all over the internet, save the children, which absolutely we have to do everything we can. I'm not putting that down, but what you're saying, these children are saving us from ourselves. That is, it just, you gotta let that one sink in. And that's incredible advice, Sherri. Each one is an individual, and they're way far ahead in some cases, and it's good for us just to, roll with it and accept that, and to see what we can learn from them as well. Yep. That's amazing. Yep. So amazing. Now, Sherri, I'll be seeing you in May, correct?
Yes.
You're one of the speakers at a conference or something, right?
Yes, I sure am, and I'm so excited about it.
And where will that be? I believe it's called the Journey to Truth Conference.
Yeah,
in Illinois.
I'll be one of the speakers at the Journey to Truth Conference in May in Grafton, Illinois, May 22nd to May 25th. Thank you for putting the dates up, because I would have forgotten. And and we have a huge panel of incredible variety of speakers. And so I think it's going to be a really great opportunity for people to come and let's hang out. No segregation, no hierarchies. Like, we're going to hang out together, have a good time, get to know each other. And then maybe some of us will get up on stage and say a few things. But at the end of the day, it's all about sharing our knowledge and creating a community. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I can't wait, and I'll be there, everyone. So if you want to come say hi to myself or Sherri, I'll be easy to find. You can't miss a 6'8" red bearded Nephilim walking around looking like an alien, like Tyler said the other night.
Yeah, that
So that was hilarious.
was good.
But yeah, it's gonna be really down to earth, and that's my favorite thing. The whole reason I like going to conferences is to connect with one another, and the speakers that will be on stage, they're just people, just like the ones in the crowd and people on stage and the people watching. Everyone has an amazing story. I'm really looking forward for all that knowledge from the speakers, all the knowledge from the people in the crowd, all just colliding. And who knows what kind of stuff we'll have flying around that place. That's what I'm going for. I want contact right there for us all. I want our friends to come down, give us a little photo op, take a selfie, and oh, that was a fun conference.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's gonna be awesome. So, Sherri, thank you so much. And before we head out, would you like to just give some of your contact information, which I will have down in the description? But if you just want to verbally allow everyone know how to get in contact with you, with the Learning Center, etc.
Sure. AramisCreativeLearningCenter.com is the main website, which has all the resources within it. The contact my daughter's walking around behind, so if anybody's like, "What's going on?" It's her.
Isn't it ghost?
And AramisCreativeLearningCenter.com, so it has all the resources, all the links to everything. The Aramis Collective is the nonprofit website, and then what was I going to say? Oh, and then I have my YouTube channel under my name, Sherri Divband, that has a lot of the interviews that I do, that gives upcoming events, and the cartoons are on there. So those are the kind of the three top ways to get in touch.
Thank you so much. And Sherri, from the bottom of my heart, what you're doing, I know so many of us, we wish we would have had that opportunity. And trust me, from being a child that was, in that beautiful, wonderful, absolutely perfect spectrum, cool. The work you're doing is so greatly appreciated. And I'm really looking forward for all the great things that are coming your way and the doors that will open for you, because I know a lot of great things come to those that put in the time, the sacrifice, the hard work, and are willing to listen. And that's what you're doing. And you're a saint. You're a saint, and you're doing real amazing work. And it's an honor to get to know you and hear your journey, a little bit of it. I know it's just the tip of the iceberg always, right? But just an incredible journey. You've overcome the odds. They were stacked against you. And now you're teaching these youngins how to overcome these same odds and do it even better than how we did, and learn from them in the process. And
Yeah,
there's nothing else to say. That's absolutely beautiful. So thank you so much. And everyone out there, please hit that like button. Please go in the description. Check out all the links or social. I'll have that all down there. Reach out to her. Check out the courses. If you have children, young adults, or even yourself, go check it out. And I promise you, you will not be disappointed. And you never know what you could learn from your own children. Because after all, I guess they're here to save us. Surprise! Did not see that one coming, but you're exactly right, and it's beautiful. So everyone, have a wonderful night.
Yeah.
I hope all of you do amazing things and continue on your journey and keep learning from your children. And I will see you next time on a new era of contact. Thanks again, Sherri. Everyone have a wonderful night. Bye. Hey, how's it going? Goodness. There she is. All right, bye-bye.
Bye.